Hello, everyone. We're going to give folks a couple minutes to get in here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. For those of us who are just joining, there is a Q&A feature right up at the top. So if you have questions for myself or Logan or Dave, we will be doing some intros so you know who we all are in a couple of minutes. But if you have questions as we're talking, feel free to put them in there. We've got some fantastic help. Lindsay and Amy are helping us out in the Q&A to make sure we get your questions answered. They may answer a couple for us as well. And we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly, even though I don't think we'll need it for too long. Hopefully you all who are joining us can see that, as well as Logan and Dave and myself. But thank you all so much for joining us for our Vermont Pitch Challenge live question and answer panel. My name is Brooke Willette. I use she, her pronouns. I'm one of the senior admissions counselors here at the University of Vermont. I broadly oversee kind of the procedural elements of the Vermont Pitch Challenge. I oversee our judging along with Logan. And we're really excited to be able to kind of connect with Logan and Dave tonight and share some tips and tricks and kind of lessons learned along the way of entrepreneurship, as well as maybe answer some of those more procedural questions that you may have. We'll go ahead and get to the kind of procedural elements of things a little later on in the program because I really want y'all to have a lot of time to chat with Logan and Dave. But you can kind of see just a quick overview. We'll go through kind of what is the pitch challenge. We'll jump right into our conversation, and then we'll kind of go from there. So most of you, I'm sure, know what the Pitch Challenge is, but just in case you don't, our Vermont Pitch Challenge is a global pitch competition for our high school sophomores, juniors, and seniors, or 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students. It's a really wonderful opportunity to learn from some incredible entrepreneurs, some incredible up-and-coming entrepreneurs in the case of our judges as well. Kind of pitch your own business ideas. Maybe they're a social impact, maybe they're, a for-profit, maybe they're not for profit, really making an impact on your community in a really kind of unique and fun way as well. And of course, we all love to compete for prizes and things like that as well. So there are a number of cash prizes, and our grand prize, which is that full tuition and fees scholarship to the University of Vermont for our grand prize winners. That is a very, very broad overview. I'm going to jump right into kind of introduction. So I'll pull this off the screen for a little bit. And Logan and Dave, do you all maybe want to take a couple minutes and introduce yourselves, kind of tell us what you're up to, things like that. And then we'll jump into some of our prepped questions and answers. And then also, like I said, if you all have questions, that Q&A box is there. We would love to answer them. So throw those in the chat and I'll make sure that we give you enough time for Logan and Dave to answer those. Logan, you want to start us off?
Sure, I'll go ahead. Thank you for all of that, Brooke. Great introduction to the pitch competition and also tonight. So my name is Logan. I'm currently an undergraduate student here at UVM. I'm really involved entrepreneurially on campus. I'm the president of the entrepreneurship club here, and I'm also the lead judge for this competition, which I'm really excited about. I also own my own summer storage moving company for college students. So I'm also dabbling in my own ideas in my free time and starting my own business alongside these amazing opportunities at the school.
Okay, I'm Dave Hurwitz. I am a Burlington area-based entrepreneur. I have been working and founding and starting companies since before you were all alive, and we'll just leave it at that. And I spent the probably 4 years, 5 years ago now, started a company, a software company, a software service company, trying to improve college admissions process, which is how I got hooked up with the folks at UVM. Learned a ton through that. Ultimately, that business did not make it though. But that then rolled into the company that I'm working for now, which is another kind of mission-oriented education software company that is using the fun and learning experience of making and playing video games to teach transferable 21st century job skills. So to use making and playing video games to get you the education you need and the career that you want, not necessarily just in game making, but in anywhere that uses those same game skills. So very much focused on startups. I've pitched just about every VC you could imagine up and down Sand Hill Road and Silicon Alley and lots of those places. So I've been doing this for a bit and look forward to chatting with all of you.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to be here tonight. I know all three of us are in Vermont and we are looking at kind of some beautiful Vermont weather. So appreciate you spending a snowy evening kind of sharing all of the lessons that you have learned along the way. I don't want to hold us up too much. I know that you all have an incredible amount of knowledge that you can share with our students. So I want to jump right into it. I'm wondering if maybe you all could share some of your tips and tricks really to how you go about creating a compelling pitch. You know, we see so many great ideas, and I think that some of the challenges can be really that kind of pitch element, right? And kind of getting comfortable with the idea of putting yourself out there in kind of a business sense. So Dave, maybe if you want to start kind of how you've gone about that over the years, Logan, if you want to kind of share some of yours as well, really hearing, you know, how you kind of navigate that process along the way.
Yeah, so just a couple of things on that. I would say the most useful thing you can do is to put yourself in the role of buyer of your product or service. So live that experience, understand those pain points, feel those pain points personally, but then also don't just assume that what you've experienced is the standard, right? It could be an exception. There could be a lot of nuance that you would get from then using your experience to then spend a lot of time talking to other people with the same problems you're trying to solve. So be a consumer of that problem, be someone who experiences that problem, and then really get involved with the people that are also going through the same problem that you're hoping to solve, and really kind of lean into that, I think is a great place to start. And then, you know, there's no magic format. I know there's a rubric for this and it's great, but pitching isn't necessarily about like an academic assignment where you're saying, okay, your teacher, you know, your rubric is how your grade is determined. You have to go through. When you're pitching, you kind of have to lean into what your audience is giving you. And if they're interested in something and it may not leave time for something else, I think that's okay. And Logan, feel free as a judge here to disagree with that. But you have to really kind of read the room. And so have all those building blocks. But then when you are pitching, don't be afraid to just sort of lean into your enthusiasm and read the room and see where the questions are coming from and how people are leaning into or leaning away from what you're talking about, and move to your next section and really focus on the stuff that's resonating, because that's what they'll remember.
Yeah, definitely. And even jumping on top of that, Dave, that was all great. But I would definitely tell people to tell a compelling story. I found that people who are looking at pitch competitions, looking at submissions, even hearing it live, having a story behind why the idea came to you, who it impacts, that's something I really look for in our in the submissions for the Vermont Pitch Challenge. And I know Dave kind of talked about not maybe going off the rubric a little bit, but for the first round, I would definitely stick to the rubric and make sure you hit most, if not all, points. That's really helping. That'll help you narrow it down, and then when you get hopefully to the finals, you can focus more on the pitch and having it tailored towards your company or your business or your idea. I also want to harp on just polishing your pitch and your submission is really important. We can tell the amount of effort and work that's been put in to a pitch. We see a large variety of submissions, and just going the extra mile, putting the work in, really puts you above everyone else. So we really look for all of those things. But in the end of the day, at the end of the day, the one that has the strongest story and the most compelling story, I think, wins out against all others.
Yeah, that's great advice from both of you. I think, we in admissions, we love storytelling. We love hearing student stories, right? And so it's kind of one of the reasons that I love this. I'm wondering maybe if you two could also expand on that a little bit and kind of dive in. We get a lot of questions often about, how far along in the process do I need to be with my pitch to submit this? Does this need to be a fully fleshed out idea? Does this, need to have a ton of data backing it? Can it be kind of the beginning stages? We say any and all stages, right? For this challenge, we love any and all stages. Because of that, data can look very different, and the storytelling and the way that students are using data within their storytelling for their pitches can look really different. I'm wondering maybe if both of you could expand on how much you rely on data when you're kind of pitching ideas at different stages. Is there kind of a way that you like to incorporate that into your storytelling? And maybe, how have you seen that help and or maybe not help in the long run with businesses that you've pitched?
Yeah, Logan, why don't you start this one?
Yeah, so I would say definitely having some kind of numbers at any point in any stage you are in your idea or your business. If your idea is just an idea where you don't have any revenue, you don't have any actual big data to back the idea, there are still a lot of things you can use to back, still a lot of data points you can use to back the idea. I know just talking, you can go and talk to customers, talk to other people in your community, friends, family, people that potentially would use the product or the service. That provides a lot of valuable information and is a source of data where even if it's just an idea, it really brings a lot forward and backs the idea more than just something that's written in paper. But I know Dave probably has a lot more experience
Well,
with this question, so I'd love to hear it.
I mean, I totally agree with you, and I would say, for it again, like Logan said earlier, put yourself in the mind of the person, the audience who's listening to this, the judges who are listening to your pitch, and understand that it doesn't matter if you're an early stage business that's pre-revenue, you haven't been really formed. This is an idea, that's fine. And think about two types of data for this conversation, kind of primary and secondary. So primary is I went out there and I stood out in front of a grocery store and I asked 100 people the same question, and I did that research myself, and this is what I found. The secondary data would be I Googled it, I asked ChatGPT to give me the right numbers, and they gave me some really compelling, it's a huge market and there are 1 million people, and they're like, that's good, okay? But the person consuming that information knows that you just sat on your butt and typed a few things, spoke it into your phone and got an answer, and it's a really easy thing to do. It's an entirely different thing if you went out there and stood in the rain in front of the supermarket and got 100 different responses, especially if you tie that back to that story that Logan mentioned at the beginning. This is where I feel this pain. We did this. We went out. We surveyed all these people. We talked to kids in school. We talked to my classmates. Whatever it was, invest yourself in getting some primary, like you're the one doing the research, at no matter what the stage is of your business, pre-revenue, post-revenue, whatever it is. That demonstration of I'm in this is an indicator that you're going to do whatever it takes to make the business work. And it's just a little kind of unspoken way to prove that.
Thank you both. That's great. We both, I think all of us have kind of alluded to this next question a little bit as we've kind of started jumping into talking about compelling pitches and really what makes it stand out. I'm wondering, both of you have experience not only pitching, but I'm sure hearing a number of pitches. Logan, I know you do because I had you do it with me last year. But I'm wondering, maybe we could touch on some common pitch mistakes to avoid. I think we focus a lot on how to get it right 100% of the time, but that also means kind of tapping into maybe some areas that you commonly see kind of fall a little flat. Maybe if you could share some mistakes you see and maybe how to avoid them or kind of how to work through them when they do happen. I'm sure that our participants would appreciate that as they go through this process of pitching and entrepreneurship.
So let me start the ball rolling here, Logan. I'm surprised how many times I hear people say, "Oh, we have no competition. No one's ever done this before. There is no competition for this." That's nonsense. Okay, you could invent, like when they first invented the automobile, right? It was the first car to say there are no other car companies. We have no competition. Your competition isn't other car companies. It's how people get transportation, right? It's the horse, it's walking, it's the stagecoach. So don't ever come in and say, we're so new, we're so different, we have no competition. That will be like, okay, this person doesn't get it. And I think another thing that I would say is, and this is maybe a little more sophisticated, but when you raise money for a business, you're raising an amount of money to do a certain number of things that cost X, and that you have a burn rate that's going to consume that money. And by the end of that consumption, you have to have done something that proves something that's going to get you more money and more time. So if you go into your pitch and say, we're going to do something that I know is going to take you 3 times as long as you say it's going to take you, or cost you 5 times as much or 2 times as much as you actually are going to have, then my assumption is you're not going to make it. You're going to die on the journey and never get there. So realistic, small kind of consumable, we're going to do this in this amount of time, and this is how that burn rate is going to affect us, so that we're going to accomplish this, and we're going to come back and tell you all about that, and you're going to want to say, I'm doubling down on my investment because you guys are nailing it. It's a subtle point, but don't overpromise, because you're setting yourself up to underdeliver, and you're killing your credibility without knowing it.
A point that's kind of similar to what Dave just said as well is over-exaggeration of the amount of people that would use your product or service. I see this a lot in pitches where someone has an idea, and it might be an amazing idea, but they're like, every single US American would use this product instantly, no hesitation, like there's no competition, and that's just not realistic. So I would recommend for your pitches trying to be as realistic as possible with, who would use your product, why they would use it, where they live, all those customer demographics, and really being trying not to over exaggerate, because that can be a turn away from how much research did you actually do, how many people did you actually talk to about this product, and do you actually know the people that would be potentially using this? So kind of similar to what Dave was saying, but just really dial it in on exactly what the product is and who it provides value to.
I think that's great advice all around. Of course, we knew that you all would have significantly better tips and tricks than ChatGPT and everything in between. So this is the benefits of having a live event like this. Dave, I want to circle back to kind of something you talked about, which is the confidence that people who are listening to your pitches want to feel in those who are pitching, right? And I think that, Logan and Dave both make great points about kind of the hyperbolizing of maybe some things can often negate that confidence. On the flip side of that, I'm wondering, we have a lot of participants who maybe public speaking is not something that they've gotten to experience a lot of. Maybe they haven't gotten to do that. The idea of pitching is really nerve-wracking. They're trying something new. How would you recommend they kind of demonstrate their confidence and really kind of push themselves in that element without maybe falling into the trap of hyperbolizing their data or their product, and also not falling into that trap of being, so rigid and focusing on the script and really making sure that they're connecting with the audience that they're pitching to?
Yeah, it's a great point, Brooke. I guess I would say I would make a distinction between confidence and enthusiasm, right? Some people are more practiced or just naturally better public speakers or more confident. I don't know that gives them any necessarily a leg up in the competition. But if you come without confidence, I'm still going to try to tease out of you the core of your idea and be able to believe that that's possible. But if you come without real enthusiasm for what you're doing, then you're in trouble, right? And so even if you are struggling with the competition, you're going to get so many credit points for showing up. and everybody is so cheering you on, and so you're among friends, and it's going to be okay. And just let that enthusiasm for what you're doing take over the rest of it. Like, don't worry about trying to be confident. Just focus on showing your enthusiasm, right? Because this has to be something that you love to do, that you're passionate about. And if you're not, that will show up too. And so you could be super confident but not very enthusiastic, or really just non-confident in what you're saying but incredibly enthusiastic, and that person's going to win every day of the week.
Perfectly said. I don't think I could have said it better myself. I would also just recommend to practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
The more you practice, the more comfortable you get public speaking. The more comfortable you get with your idea, like answering question gets easier. Talking just with people in conversation gets easier, and it's really a skill that you can learn, of just learning how to practice long term or long speaking blanks. And yeah,
And it gets better every time too. So
yeah.
the art of doing it gets better, right? So you'll be a better practitioner of that pitch, but the pitch itself will get better and better and better as you condense it down and condense it down. And you'll find your just really important things that, so as you're thinking on your feet and you're asking, your judges might ask you a question as you're pitching. If you have the muscle memory because you've done this a lot, then you're able to then sort of really listen to them and hear them, as opposed to freaking out if they mess with your rhythm, right? So yeah, practice has no substitute.
Amazing. Thank you both. I know that both of you have kind of been in entrepreneurship and this idea of innovation and entrepreneurship for a while. I think it's kind of a unique thing, right? There's no real one size fits all for entrepreneurship. We know that it exists across many disciplines. And because of that, I think people get into it at very different stages. And I think they kind of stumble upon it in different ways. Maybe, kind of thinking back to the beginning of your entrepreneurship journeys, what is one thing that maybe you wish someone had told you, wish you had known? Hindsight is always 20/20, as they say. What is one of those things that you think maybe would have helped you along the way when you were getting started?
Yeah, I can start with this one since I'm kind of a newer entrepreneur as well, at least in my journey. The one thing I would say that I didn't know when I was starting out was that people want to help you. That was something I never really realized when I was getting started with my own idea, and trying to get money for investment, build the business up on my own. But talking to people and bouncing your idea off other people, and people who are also in the space is one of the best things you can do. People want to help you. They're not going to steal your idea. You don't have to gatekeep the idea. Talking to other people will open up so many more avenues than just keeping it to yourself. So many more experiences, so many more connections, and it really brings your idea, lifts your idea up, and also your entrepreneurial journey. So I would recommend talking to as many people as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I would say Burlington, just my little plug for what you see behind Brooke there. Burlington, Vermont has such a great community for that. Logan, I don't know, I'm sure you're connected to VSET, like the Vermont Center for Emerging Technologies. It's like a co-working space with tons of entrepreneurs and super helpful people. Everybody is interested in what you want to do. They want to do it playing ping pong with you. They want to do it like building a deck together. They want it's a super collaborative, fun environment, and that exists where you are right now as well, right? It's out there. So Logan's definitely right. People want to help. They want to lean in and say they knew you when. So definitely do that. And I would say, for me, one thing I might add to that, different subject, but on the same subject of kind of one thing I wish I'd known. The last company I started, I did as a solo entrepreneur. Don't do that. For a lot of reasons, and we don't have time for all of them, but really, I think that the most important point here is that if you're going to go present yourself to investors and say, this is what we are going to go do, this is what has to happen, it's not practical to think that you could do that alone. And I certainly didn't represent that I could, but I said, okay, I've got this amazing idea, and everybody that I pitched said, oh my God, this is so needed. This is awesome. I love this. And then I explain, okay, I'm going to hire these people to do this, and these people to do this, and these people to do that. And those people did all those things, but they did it transactionally, right? They said, pay me X and I'll do it and give it to you, and here you go. And then it's a static thing. Whereas if you've got a couple of co-founders, and let's say you want to build a software product like I did, I don't code. I needed coders, right? To launch a company that's about software without coders is so stupid. And I did it. Stupid, right? So whatever your business is, don't be afraid of co-found. In fact, embrace the idea that you cannot go alone, that co-founders are going to make your idea better. They're going to make the probability of success better. They're going to bring lived experience into that problem for you, and bring you resource that, they're going to come a time you say, I got no more money, but we're going to have to spend all weekend doing this thing, whatever your business thing is. We need manpower, and co-founders lend that with co-founding. So before you set sail on your journey, make sure that you've got a full crew, or at least a crew, to do the essential things that are foundational to your success. Otherwise, you're making that mountain too high to climb.
That's incredible advice. I want to kind of touch a little bit, Dave, on what you said, really kind of about community and the idea of Burlington. As someone who is proudly a sixth generation Vermonter, I love to get on the Burlington bandwagon. I love to talk about it. But I do want to touch on maybe kind of even broader, Dave, what has your role, the role of community or kind of community within the industry been? We just heard you talk about co-founders, which I think is a unique subset of community, but maybe the community at large. Can you talk a little bit about maybe your experience with communities in different fields that you've been in, and maybe what you've learned from those communities?
Specific to Burlington?
Wherever, really. I mean, I love Burlington, so I say maybe start there and go from there, but whatever you're feeling, whatever your heart's desire is.
Yeah, I think Logan's point is a great one, though, that about people want to help you, right? And so when I started with kind of the kernel of my idea, I did a lot of research, both that secondary research we talked about, where I Googled the heck out of everything, right? And I knew all my facts and figures cold. And then I started to go out and talk to people. And it was just amazing to me how interested people were in helping, in lending their perspective. And that became true for both expertise, as well as for creating connections for me. So I can't do that, but I know someone who can, and let me pick up the phone and make a call. Let me text my friend, and then you can go see her. That happens all the time. You do that with capital as well. Raising capital is a really difficult thing, but you find people who become your champions and say, you know what, let me do this. I'm going to invite 6 people to lunch, and I want you to come pitch them. And then you finish lunch by saying, who else do you know? And people just want to help you. So I think that community, both physically, like where you are, and then virtually, you can really tap into a ton of stuff, and people don't necessarily know how they can help you. And so you have to kind of sometimes be really explicit. And I find that LinkedIn can be a really valuable tool. And your networks at your age may not be too deep into LinkedIn, but if you, for example, wanted to, you're interested in company X, and you go and you look at that company on LinkedIn and you find 20 people who work there, and you find out that you're sort of 2 people away from that person, you can get to that person and then go to them and say, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Would you be willing to give me 15 minutes on a quick call? I would so appreciate it. I guarantee you that they're going to do that. And if they don't, good, stay away from that person anyway. But more often than not, they're going to lean into it. So be creative about your networking skills. It's not being aggressive to knock on their door and say, would you help me? Because as Logan said, most people are hardwired and predisposed to say yes to that question, and then be explicit about, this is exactly the help that I could use from you. And it might be like, I know that you know so-and-so. Would you be willing to connect me? Yes, I could do that. Do you know 3 people that might consider an investment in something like this? And that's not like, do you know anyone? That's 3 people. And then you find out they actually send you 4 names, as opposed to saying, do you know anyone? and then you never hear back. So be explicit in that sense.
Yeah, Logan, kind of going off of that, I'm wondering if maybe you can talk kind of as a young entrepreneur, really kind of getting into this space. How important has this idea of networking and really kind of embracing this idea that people want to help you in community really helped you and been kind of beneficial in your success, whether it be one of the businesses you're working on, whether it be, schoolwork or everything in between?
Yeah, definitely. I think Dave said a lot of valuable things. Kind of what I would say to that question as well. But I mean, knowing someone who knows someone is insanely valuable. So many doors will get opened if you just ask a question, if you just reach out. People want to help, and there is such a kind of network effect where you ask one person who knows two people, who then know five people, who then you're at a place where you're like, wow, looking back a year ago, I didn't know anything or anyone about this, and now I feel like I know the entire community, and people who want to help me, who want to see me grow and support me in my journey. So it is pretty amazing how fast that can kind of happen and how much you can grow, just by making connections with people in your community. I mean, the last 2 years I've seen it myself, and I've grown into these amazing opportunities like the Vermont Pitch Challenge here.
Thank you both. I know that we're going to kind of switch gears in a little bit and kind of talk about the procedural elements of the pitch challenge. But before we do that, I always like to end whenever I'm kind of chatting with folks, particularly about things like innovation and entrepreneurship. What is the best piece of advice that you both have received? I think, we all have received a million tidbits of advice along the way for every different thing we do. But I find that, personally, there's always one thing that stands out. And I'm wondering if you both could maybe share one, two if you have them. I won't keep a tally of the best pieces of advice you've received along your way.
I guess I would say, because I agree with you, there's tons of good advice out there. But the one thing that I always come back to that's important to me, the odds of your business, you turning into the next Zuckerberg, pretty limited, right? Every little kid who picks up a basketball is not going to be LeBron James. They're not going to play in the league. But there is so much to be gained by picking up that ball and learning to play basketball. And so as you start this journey as an entrepreneur, and some of you may not be starting, you might have said, I've started 5 companies already, right? But as you progress as an entrepreneur, just know that everything you do makes you better. And all of that you take with you to your next experience, whether it's after you've sold your company for $1 billion or whether you closed your company and cried for a week, right? All of that stuff that you learned, all those skills, the relationships, the confidence, the knowledge, all of that stuff is yours, right? That comes with you, and is yours forever. And so don't think that this is a binary kind of, we're going to succeed or we're going to fail. And if I fail, it's a failure. It's not a failure. It is a step along your journey, and you're just going to keep going and getting smarter because you have the benefit now of all this incredible experience. So never hesitate to just kind of jump in, and know that you're going to, whatever the business does, you're going to take so much from it and be better off. And it might be exactly the thing that you needed to learn to be successful in the next one.
Definitely. And going back to the steps and the journeys and going through those motions, I would say the best piece of advice I've received is the first step is always the hardest step. Getting started with your idea, testing the waters, getting other people's feedback, starting to build something, joining a pitch competition, maybe trying to get investment for it. The first step of all of that stuff and all the good things to come of growing a business, making an impact in people's lives is getting started. And, it seems like the hardest step in the moment, but a couple years down the line, a lot of successes down the line, you will be very glad you took that step. So yeah, the best piece of advice is get started.
And in Silicon Valley, there's an old truism that you would hear, that you do hear a lot, that start by starting. Like, well, how do I start a company? You start by starting, right? Just do something. Just get started. and the next step will become obvious to you. And if you start asking around more experienced people, it just start by starting. So yeah, it's great advice, Logan.
Well, thank you both so much for all of this advice. I know that I learned something. I hope our audience did as well. It's always great to connect with you all. I want to shift gears a little bit for our audience and kind of talk about the procedural process of this. So, Logan, I may tap you in here a couple times just as someone who is looking at all of the pitches that are coming in. You're part of our incredible team of student judges. And like I said, I broadly oversee a lot of the procedural elements, so hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions for you there. But we'll start pretty broad. I know we've got a couple questions in the chat as well about the procedural pieces of it. You know, I will throw up here as well a QR code with some important dates to remember. Those are super important. That QR code will link to the Vermont Pitch website. So if for some reason you need to go back and want to take a look at anything, you'll be able to do that. So, our application is open currently. It is open until February 15th. We will let finalists know in around, early to mid-March if they've been selected. And then the on-campus event is going to take place kind of the 2nd of April through the 3rd. The 2nd is going to be kind of the arrival night where you all get there as finalists, and then your final pitch and the award ceremony will take place on the 3rd. So that's kind of the three important dates at the moment that I like for students to remember. Like I said at the beginning, this is open to grades 10, 11, and 12, or our sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school. It is open worldwide. You can participate as a team member of one, a team of one. You can participate as a team of two or a team of three. So we encourage you to go about working together. Maybe you all have a combined idea. You can jump into that. You can submit a couple of different formats. I think one of the really exciting things about UVM is we really lean into this idea of creativity and innovation existing broadly across all of the many fields that we have. I talk a lot to students about the many, many different offerings that UVM has if they're coming here to study. And I think that translates really well into this. So you are welcome to submit your classic written pitch, right? If you want to do more of a logical paper style, you can do that. If you want to get a little more creative and submit maybe a podcast style pitch where you're talking about it, you're welcome to submit an audio file of that as well. And if you want to get creative, maybe you have a slide deck that you want to present as part of your initial one, you can submit a video as well. You will be able to find the rubric that Logan was talking about right on our website. We want you to know what we are judging you on. And so we want to help you, like we said, right? We always want to help you out. So we try and give you kind of the runway for that. We encourage you to hit all of those points in your pitch, however that looks. We do have a question in the chat, and Logan, I'm going to defer to you only because, like I said, you are one of the ones reading all of these pitches. The students are asking, if my team submits a video, how should they go about incorporating the executive summary? Would you prefer it be in the video, a separate document? What is your take on that, and maybe what do you think?
Yeah, I would submit as much as possible. I mean, when we're looking at the rubric and judging based on the rubric, if you think your video can hit every single part of the rubric and give us a good idea of your pitch, then I would maybe not submit an executive summary if you haven't written already. If you think the executive summary can help your chances and, back your pitch, then I would definitely submit it. I would submit anything that would help you guys win and get into this final round. So yeah, if you haven't done that already and you don't think that it would help your pitch, your video pitch, then I maybe wouldn't. But if you think it would help the video pitch, then I would definitely do a written version as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Logan. We also have a question, can I submit a business pitch that I created for a school project? The answer is absolutely. If you already have one that you've been working on for a while, we are not asking you to reinvent the wheel. The likelihood is you're excited and you're passionate about that project. We want to see that come through, so you absolutely can adapt your pitch. We encourage you, like I said, to always kind of go back to the rubric, and I'd even maybe take it one step further and say, take a look at your pitch and really look and see if you can adapt it at all to kind of the overall goal of the Vermont Pitch Challenge, right? Which is very in line with the overall kind of mission of UVM to create this thriving future for people and planet. And that means, social impact. Maybe it's an impact on the market that you're a part of. Really kind of diving in, maybe taking it one step further, getting that research that we talked about, maybe getting some more of those stories and kind of adapting it. It's going to, I think, set you up the best for success. We also have another kind of logistical question of, are my chances better if I submit before February 15th? No. We know that it takes a lot of time for pitches to kind of get finalized, and everything, entrepreneurship is not kind of a final draft thing, right? It's always evolving, it's always existing. So we want you to take as much time as you need right up till that deadline, and we'll judge everybody. No bonus points for submitting it a few days before. Like I said, this is open to kind of sophomores, juniors, and seniors, right? And I'm kind of talking specifically to my seniors now. I know that a number of you are probably in the throes of college admissions decisions and making your college choices right now. So the question that we got is, if a student has already been accepted to UVM, can they participate in the Vermont Pitch Challenge? Firstly, congratulations on your admission to UVM. That is incredible. We are thrilled. I love when I hear from my admitted students, so it's really exciting to have you on here tonight. You absolutely can participate in the Vermont Pitch Challenge. I, in fact, would love it if you participated in the Vermont Pitch Challenge, even more so if you are an admitted senior and you are one of our final team members. Then you also are going to be invited to one of our admitted student days, which is taking place on April 4th. So you could really have a full UVM kind of 3-day week if you wanted to kind of tack all of those in there together. Like I said at the beginning, we all love some competition, right? And we want to make sure that this is kind of a pitch competition. So there are a number of prizes. So kind of we'll start bottom up. And Logan, I'm going to make sure you keep me honest on this one because sometimes numbers get thrown around. Our 5th and 4th place team winners will receive $1,000 cash prizes. Our 3rd and 2nd place winning teams will receive $5,000 cash prizes. And our grand prize is that full scholarship, tuition and fees to the University of Vermont. Now, like I said earlier, you can participate in a team of 1, 2, or 3, right? So the question, what happens if I'm in a team of 2 or 3 and we're lucky enough to win? We get that scholarship. Do we have to kind of rock, paper, scissors and decide which one of us gets the scholarship? No. As long as you all are admitted to UVM, you will all receive that scholarship. Now, I say that very intentionally because the scholarship does not guarantee admission to UVM. So if you are a sophomore or a junior or maybe a senior who didn't think about UVM beforehand and you want to apply, we'll go through that process. You'll use the Common Application Coalition application. Then you can come talk to me about all things admissions and we'll shift gears and I'll kind of talk to you about that. But as long as you're admitted to UVM, if you are one of our grand prize winners, you will receive that. In addition to that, the question was kind of in regards to scholarship guidelines and how it's awarded with financial aid. This is a merit-based scholarship, so it models kind of the way that we do our merit-based scholarships for admissions. Essentially what that means is we are not looking at your FAFSA or your CSS profile when we're awarding that. So that's all going to be a separate bucket. So you'd still work with both the admissions office and the financial aid office to go about that and make sure you get both the merit award and your need-based award. But that is all stuff that we can kind of help you along the process a little bit later on. One other thing that I kind of want to touch on is you will see when you submit your application, there will be a question about, are you the team captain? Up to you all how you want to go about choosing the team captain. If you both want to be co-captains, if you want to have that, that's totally fine. We don't mind. Just as long as whoever is marked as the team captain, you're responsible for making sure the pitch gets attached to your application. So make sure that your video, audio file, your documents, whatever you need, get added to that. Of course, if you all realize that you need to add something else, maybe someone else's application in your team, feel free to do that as well. But whoever's the team captain, you're in charge of making sure that that pitch comes across Logan and my desk before the 15th is the big thing. In terms of if you have questions, if anything comes up, you are always welcome to reach out to us. You are going to be able to find us via email at vtpitch@uvm.edu. We try and keep it pretty simple. You're also welcome to email myself. You'll be able to find me on the admissions website. So we try and make sure that we can get all of your questions answered. Let me make sure that I didn't miss anything. Awesome. Well, I will stick around for a couple minutes. Dave and Logan, thank you again for taking the time out of your evenings to spend with us. I know that I appreciated it. I know that our audience members appreciated it as well. For those of you listening, thank you so much for joining us, for your questions. I hope that this was helpful. I hope you got some really great ideas for your pitches. I know that we're all getting very excited here at UVM to see all of the incredible pitches that come across our desks here in the next couple of weeks. And we are very excited to connect with you all, whether it be at the beginning of your entrepreneurship journey or maybe down the road, wherever it takes you. We wish you the best of luck and thank you all so much.
Good luck, everybody.